June 18th, 2024, Heart Center Marketing. Welcome to the show. My name is Joey Ragona, and I am super honored and proud to have my good friend Lorna Scott back in the house. It's been a while since you have been here. It feels like
It
forever.
has been.
Yeah, when was the last time? Do
I
you
think
remember?
I want to say maybe February,
Get lost.
maybe January. Like it's been a long time. Maybe there's been one since then. I don't know.
Wow.
Let's just face it. I did a lot of things in January, February, and March. So
Wow. Okay.
maybe I wasn't on.
Yeah, maybe. Like it's been I can't believe we're already halfway through the year. It's been a
I
very
know.
quick year. So yeah, but I'm glad you're back. This is amazing.
I
How you
am.
doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank
Good.
you.
Good.
I'm really glad to be back too.
Catch us
This is
up real
always
quick.
fun.
Like what's the summary? What have you been doing since February?
Oh. Oh, well, February and March, I did a couple of little side projects where I was providing support in Facebook groups for Brian Kurtz and his marketing partner, Chris Mason, and
Nice.
through Proper Partner and, their flagship implementation boot camp with Breakthrough Advertising, which is an amazing boot camp, and anyone who's in marketing needs to take that. Really, they
Mm-hmm.
do. Likely six times. But anyway, at
Very
least
cool.
once. So it was really cool to hang out with a lot of the people that went through the boot camp and support them. And then since then has been working on my own business and getting more clarity on who I am now that I'm growing up.
The big girl
So
pants are
I
on right
spent
now.
yeah exactly. Well, I spent 30 days um, doing three simple things. So this was inspired by something that Rich Sheffrin told me in one of our calls, where he had this idea and he never did anything with it, but he mentioned it. So he didn't tell me to do it. And so a few months later, I shared for 30 days. I shared my vision. I asked for support and took action towards my vision. Now, in all honesty, I didn't get 30 asks for support other than asking people to review my vision and give me some feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always wanted to have ask for more. So that was a good learning. Um, it, the it was incredible starting where I started with my vision because it's a new piece. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it this is a nice segue into focus because I realized that my vision was really narrow on exactly like one course,
Mm-hmm.
which what I offer may not be more than one course, but there's more to a business than to think about than that. So I wanted to expand on where I would see, what my business vision was in like overall, like what, in 5 years, what is it that I would like to see my business doing? And that was just a really nice exercise and getting the feedback from different people because different people saw different strengths in me because they knew me in different places. So they were able to see parts of me that I didn't see myself, and still working all of that in. So it was a really wonderful growth exercise. Took more time than I thought it would in
Yeah.
having some of those discussions, but it was powerful. Like it's put me into momentum. I just yesterday got my first free gift out. I'm guessing it's about 2 years since I've had a free gift
Wow. Wow.
available. So Rich's theory was that if you share your vision and you do those three simple things, that your business will move forward in a lot of ways that you didn't think were possible, and opportunities would come up, and those things have like all happened just by doing those three simple things.
Cool.
And here, and this isn't a free gift that's a one-page checklist or or, you know kind of some of the, if I could say it, cheesier lead magnets. It's
Yeah.
a full, like it's a mini course. it's a mini course. So it was like writing the mini course, doing the slides. I'm really rusty on PowerPoint. I'm really rusty on presenting, like on a recording. So, I recorded and recorded and recorded and, made mistakes in PowerPoint and had to re-record. And I learned a lot. It might have missed a little bit of the simplicity that you like to talk about.
Hmm.
But it's been a really great experience. And one of the opportunities that's come up is in the Coaching Corner Facebook group is that I've got a masterclass will be coming out one of the days this week in her Festival of Learning. So just helping people find the 3 best topics for their lead magnets that will help their dream prospects become dream clients and put up their hand for those offers. So it's a lot of forward momentum
Yeah, a lot.
happening.
That's a lot. Congratulations. Huge, huge.
Yeah, thank you. You
Um,
didn't know you were getting all that when you asked, did you?
yeah, like wow, it's that. Yeah, bring us up to date, and we're up to date. So that's very, very cool. I wonder how this will is if this is affecting you because um I've noticed in the last little while, actually, it's been a while now, like a couple of months, really, and maybe even the whole year. But like so many people are very overwhelmed, and overwhelm is one of those big things where it never goes away. It's always in our market. But I feel as though this year has been extremely um, difficult for a lot of people because of overwhelm, and I think that it has a lot to do with the changing technologies and so much being put out there and they don't know where to go, what to focus on, and then that leads to a lot of procrastination, which is why I want to talk today about the focus framework because it's one of the things that I started working on. That was actually I think it was one of my very first frameworks that still isn't really even flushed out as much as I'd like, but it's close. And then I looked at the problems that I've been seeing and having discussions about, and it's always the same top 2 things that are coming up, which is I'm overwhelmed, got a lot of stuff going on, and I need to step back and I need to make sure that my business is running the right way before I do anything else. Those are like
Mhm.
sounds like 3, but there's really 2. I'm like, okay. And so that theme has been running through conversations and threads and all these things that I've been seeing, especially in the past 3 months or so. And I thought, okay, I get it, but at the same time, the whole idea is that you need to focus in order to make the business move forward. Just like what you just talked about. You just talked about just even if it was a focus on helping people or helping yourself understand what your vision was and sharing that, and those little things will move the business forward. And that's what the framework is about. The framework is overarching. Like it's a really cool because it could be a meta thing, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
what those 5 things are. It could be a big thing about the 10-year vision. Then you could break it down. So the thing I like about it is that the framework works in any capacity, even if it's a week. You can still use the framework to get like, okay, how am I going to move forward? And I love that it's called focus because that's what I'm all about. So let's go into this, and then we'll have a discussion around this. And if anybody has a question or wants to talk about certain areas, I'd love to know, even yourself, Lorna, like where you have any challenges or some input or brainstorms on the areas. So the first part of it, the F, is about the forecast, which is about future vision, and it doesn't matter again like the time frame. It could be 10 years, could be 3 months, it could be a week, whatever it is what is the forecast? What are you planning to do? What is the future vision of this next time period? That's the F part of it. The O part of it is the obstacles and the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you. And how do you look at them? Are they truly opportunities or are they distractions? And are you identifying the obstacles? Do you know what they are? Or maybe you don't know what the obstacles are, because that's what's going to give you, like, if you don't know, me, like, I like to talk a lot about future. When I talk to a lot of future based people, a lot of times they have trouble with the obstacles because they don't They don't look down at their feet and they're tripping over that obstacle. So that's where the framework comes in, is like, all right, great, I get it, but what are you tripping over? And if you don't know what that is, it's really hard to move forward, which brings you to the clarity. Because in any case, you need clarity about something. Whether it's the clarity of the obstacle, the clarity of the vision, whatever it is, there has to be clarity of some degree. Now, I'll stop there. Do you want to jump in there, add some input? Like,
Well, do you want to do the U and the S before I jump in? Because I think if I
okay,
jump in, we're going to go off on a
on a
great
tangent. Okay,
chat.
so I'll let you finish
Yeah.
off the framework, the U and the S.
Oh, okay. So the U is your unique superpower.
Uniques, yep.
So maybe just if there's anything to add to that, because I kind of go like only one.
Well, the
Is there
uniques,
usually, do you look at different unique superpowers?
yeah. So uniques are I call it, instead of unique superpowers, I like to use that as uniques as a plural, which is
Okay.
your unique superpower. Like, where is your zone of genius that you need to be focused on in to help the
Okay.
you move forward?
Gotcha.
And also,
Yeah.
what are the uniques of the business or your program or something like that that you could focus on in order to move forward
Mhm.
within that framework period? So it's whatever, right? So you're focusing on uniques of any kind.
Any kind.
Hmm.
Cool. And then, well, the S, we were talking about this, in the green room about what is the S. We're talking about strategy,
Hmm.
um, mostly simplify and speed of implementation. So,
Right.
not to get bogged down in a strategy, like not to make that be a. Sometimes that can feel like a heavy intellectual kind of
Yes.
thing when it can be much simpler than that, but it's still a strategy to simplify and speed of implementation.
Yeah, because that strategy, I don't want people to get caught up in that because, I used to love selling strategy and the whiteboarding and all the connected components and all that stuff. And it was like, look at the strategy, right? Then, well, now what do we do, right? And so that's
Yeah.
cool. It has its place, but not here. This is where, like you said, a strategy could just be doing one thing. Tomorrow I'm going to go do this, and that's the strategy, right? Or I'm gonna post for 30 days or ask questions for 30 days. That's the strategy. There's not a lot of rocket science to it, and but that was the strategy. So yeah.
So yeah, so I think how I see it after that, after you give that explanation, is the is your idea with the strategy is more about the action
Hmm.
than about the thinking. Like there's the thinking is involved, but without the action, then there is no focus.
That's why I
Like
like the
it,
speed part of it. Like, to
yeah,
use the S as the speed is like, okay, you've got all these in place, the clarity, or you need to find this clarity, then go do that. Rather than getting stuck in, well, what's the whole strategy in order to do that? How do I set up this? How do I do that? Like, no, just go and go do that. So that's why I like speed being a real big part of the whole thing.
yeah, cool, awesome. Well, then I'll flip back to the future vision,
Okay.
and I really like this after having done my 30-day the 30-day challenge I gave myself because I learned a couple of things that I think lots of people will benefit from. And one is just about how the communication with the vision. So, I mean, I'm talking about my experience, but it's also the communication and what we tell ourselves about what our vision is and what we expect from that. So, in my mind, I wanted the Martin Luther King speech kind of vision. Like I have a dream, I have a business, and this is what it's going to, how it's going to help people, and we're going to accomplish all these things. And I'm thinking this big picture. But even when I would say that to people, the what was given back to me most often was something that I would consider more of a dream client statement.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not a researcher. I don't really know what all that difference is about, but it seemed to me that like either people didn't themselves have a bigger vision, or I didn't communicate what I was looking for. And I was looking for clarity. So my vision was pretty like wonky at the beginning. Like there
What
wasn't.
was the vision when you first started out?
Just
Not, I'm not
one
talking
sec.
about the statement, but what is, so let me
Oh,
bring it back to the framework. See, this is where like it's so meta, right? Because it could be about a vision, like if you do a 10-year vision or something about the business, then it could be about like this is the thing that I want. But more in this framework is an active framework of when I say vision, it would be more of at the end of this time period, this is what I see. Like that's what I'm when I
yeah,
the context of
and that
vision.
so at the beginning that I didn't get down into the Martin Luther King thing. So at the beginning, it was like I have this world of like I see this world of coaches who are in a safe place. They're helping each other. They have figured out how to attract people and keep them so that they're ready to buy their programs. Like they don't have to sell, and so it went all over the place in that way. Um, and partway through, I finally stopped myself from like as far as the big vision. So I think this is really relevant because it shows all the different places that that vision can have. What I didn't do at the time is looking at a time period. Um, but to do that, I to get close to that, I went out and went like, okay, in 5 years, what do I want my business to look like? And uh, so I had to go a bit into that. What's my dream? Like
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to feel? How do I want people to feel? Where's are the different revenue streams coming from?
Cool.
Um, and even with that, like I admit, I cheated on that. Like to start with, I don't know if this is exactly where it's going to go. I have been well, you know, I'm fascinated by Rich Schefren anyway. But looking at some of the different income streams that he had that I wouldn't have ever considered, like licensing, um, you know, some of the bundling of programs, which I don't know if I'll ever have enough programs to bundle, but just opening my eyes to different possibilities that I maybe hadn't seen, whether they're going to come to fruition. Because I'm not Rich Schefren, I don't necessarily want to like what I want are people who are succeeding, and I want to be part of seeing the look in their eyes when they get it. Like
Because this is
that's what I
long-term
want.
vision then you're talking about.
So it's long term vision, um, and what I ended up at the end was still more of a bigger vision without specifics, but not a big business vision. It was more of a vision of the program that I'm going into
Right.
beta with.
So if we take
So
it, go ahead.
I was going to say, so, you know, there's that piece. And if you're looking about what the vision is now, my vision, you know, likely a month ago, my vision was to get this mini course
Okay.
done and get the free gift done. So, and
Okay, that's what I'm
this, like,
talking about. Like it's more of the
this,
forecast of like at the end of this what's going to happen. I see this happening. So
yeah,
it's like that's the forecast. I'm going to do all the I need this done, right? And then these are the other
yeah.
things that are in place. The obstacles, the opportunities, I need clarity on this, right? And then I'm going to use my unique strengths on this so I don't divert in all these other areas,
Yeah.
right?
But I mean, I think there's value in, like, I don't like not everyone needs to go and do share their vision 30 days. There's people who are really clear on where they want to go. Um, and I don't think that's the only place to be. But for me, for me, I really wanted to get a bigger perspective of what it was like to have a business, not just a course. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
an important differentiation for me. Um, that a course isn't a business. That so that was important for me. But it all permeates down. So like now that focus of the vision on the mini course is like it's done. It like I admit I'm going to be going back in to do some re-recording with a couple of things that I went, okay, yeah, whatever, you know, but it's done. It's ready to go. It's out there. So my next vision is to get people interested in it. So that when I look at the future vision, obstacles, opportunities, like that whole thing, the whole mini course fits in with all of that. The mini course gave me clarity. It helped me identify even more of my uniques, and it identified where I have uniques that I don't see or that I haven't been able to express um, in a way that's really meaningful. But and the obstacles and opportunities, I mean the opportunities is that I think it's a fabulous mini course. It's going to help people. Um, the obstacle that has come up with that is that with that focus, I didn't, it really truly feels to me like it's a there's a dividing line. Like it's like, okay, I didn't even worry about lead generation. And in April, it was like, that's my if I really wanted to have the vision, like what is the constraint in my business? Like what's really holding me back is the lead. Like, well, which yeah, we don't want to talk about leads.
Yeah,
The
I
rest of the
mean,
world
leads in the
talks about
context of what we yeah, it's not like a
yeah,
regular just funnel lead, but yeah, I get it.
yeah, no. But it's having people come find, to attract the people into my world. I don't have a big pool of people.
So
So
that's an
that
obstacle.
identified 2 months ago. So it's an obstacle. It's a constraint in my business. I identified that 2 months, but what have I done towards that? Um, and I have my own reasons, you know, for what I want to share with others and help them with their business. The mini course, I put more effort into it because I believe that's what I need to do to show people the power of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't simple and it took time. So while I was doing that, I'm not doing lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I identified that 2 months ago, like that's the obstacle, but I still didn't deal with that obstacle. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
100%. That's why I think that, when you can continuously challenge the framework, which is what I like about it, because I like using forecast as this analogy for anybody listening. By the way, if you're just joining us, please give us a hashtag live if you're watching us live, or hashtag replay. And if you're watching inside my Facebook group, and you're asking questions, I can't see the question. I'm trying to get to them. I don't know where to go to like see them. I just don't see them in eCam. So I apologize if you are corresponding in Facebook group because I can't see the messages. Um, but anyway, here's what we're talking about: the focus framework. It's a 5-part framework. Focus, which is the acronym, and the F is for forecast. We're talking about where do you want to see? What's the future of? It could be a week. It could be 3 years. It could be 3 months. Whatever that is. What does that future look like? The O is about obstacles and opportunities that show up within that forecast. Like this is what's going to happen, and these are the obstacles that's going to stop me from getting there. The C is about clarity. You need clarity about everything that happens. That's why I kind of looked at it too, and I said, this is brilliant that the C is right in the middle. Because even if you did like a whole Venn diagram thingy, and the C is right in the middle, it's like brilliant because that's the
Really
that's
is
the
right in the
core
middle.
thing, right? Core and clarity. So you need clarity about whatever it is you're going to do. And then the U's are about uniques. Your unique superpower. Where can you apply yourself uniquely to this situation, and or look at the uniques of the business or whatever you're doing. Like how can you stand out? Like looking for the unique possibilities there. And then the S is about speed or strategy, but strategy in a very laid back way, not an overarching major thing. It's more of speed of like maybe it was one thing. What's the strategy? What's the thing I'm going to go do right now? So that's what we're talking about. And the reason I like this is because like it's you can challenge it all the time. Like the forecast, and here's the analogy I wanted to bring up, which is this. Like it's kind of like looking at your phone, your app, and looking at the weather for next week. So you're forecasting, or they're forecasting, and you're preparing. You're going on a trip or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I got to bring a raincoat because it's going to rain a couple of those days, right? That's the way that I look at this framework. Is like, what's the forecast that I'm looking at so that I could prepare for this, and then what are the obstacles and all that stuff that I just talked about. So when I did it, and I'm constantly using it. So one of the examples I have is when I was hiring for the team, and I'm hiring for someone to bring on. Right, that's a forecast. Like at the end of this month, I will have this in place. This is the forecast. This will happen. Here's the obstacles. Here's the opportunities. This is the clarity that I need. These are the uniques that I need to work on, and these are the uniques that. And here's another thing as I'm bringing this up. Here's the uniques I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for these uniques
Ah.
as the clarity. And this is a, so in this case, I was hiring people, as you know, and I'm like, these are the things I'm looking for. And so that gave me clarity and gave me a very narrow focus. And then speed of implementation, which speed is like, I'm just strategy. This is what I'm going to do. And I shared the strategy with you guys on the academy of like how I did all that. But that's how I did it because it was, I just followed that framework and it worked out really, really well. So that's just another perspective of how to use that framework over and over
Well,
and over again.
and apparently it's not a bad debrief framework either, except for the future vision part. But I mean, I guess that can be a, the future vision as a debrief could be like the vision that you had a month ago. Like what did it change? Like, did something change during that month? So, I mean, that your obstacles and opportunities and clarity would explain why that happened. But it's, yeah, not unusual that I would take it backwards. I would
Well,
take it,
no,
I would use it backwards, but,
yeah, it was just
it,
that you kind of look at the future vision of like this is what I want at the end of the day. And yeah, some things change maybe throughout, but that's what's so cool about it because you can kind of reset it. Like even as you're
yeah,
going through it, you could reset and go, wait a minute, okay, what's the forecast here? Like the weather's changed because the weatherman's never right. Like there's always something that changes, right? So okay, let's what's the forecast again? Okay, let's reforecast this. That's what's so cool about it because me, I'm like that person who doesn't like rigidity. What is the word I'm looking for? Rig-
rigidity.
rigidity. I think that's what I don't like that. I don't like being stuck in a box and like this is
No.
exactly how you need to go do it. I like flexibility. I'm expecting things to not go the way that they should. So the focus frameworks allows for that adaptation. I think that's the right word to be
Yeah.
refocused, recentered, and yeah, the forecast is just a forecast. Like here's what I see in this. Now, when you pull back out and you look at it as a bigger vision, it's a little bit more intense. Because then, yes, the future vision's there. What's the 10 years look like? What's all? That's a completely different thing. But
But
I'm focusing this on today's problem, but that I'm seeing is that people are stuck in overwhelm. They don't know what to do,
yeah,
and then they're like, well, then they're procrastinating. So if you apply it to overwhelm, wow, there's so many things to do, and look, what's the forecast? Like, what do you want to happen in a week? What are 30 days from now? What does it look like for you? Right? And you can apply this to that problem. Would you agree or not?
oh no, I totally agree. I mean, I mean, I'm likely going to go. I won't totally go backwards, but I'm thinking if I did this in, say, the beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May, and just looking at the all encompassing pieces of life, like life comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, in the second week in April or something, my grandson started playing ball hockey. So that
Mm-hmm.
was, you know, so I'm pretty adamant about watching my grandkids play their sports. Not as much as possible because I would never like I'd be all over the place, and I'm not a parent anymore. I just want to go and have fun and cheer them and support them.
Yeah.
Um, and But it takes some balance. I've got one who plays ball hockey, two who play lacrosse, and two who play soccer. Now, thank goodness the two who play lacrosse play on the same team, but they travel. There's not a lot of people who play lacrosse, so they travel. There's a big span. They're not always in the city to play. So when I look at especially what would have changed for me between the
Mm-hmm.
end of March in that the next quarter is where do I fit in the time to see them do their sports because they play their sports in a time I'm still usually working. So
Okay.
there's some adjustments. So if there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple of
Mm-hmm.
nights a week, I try to, you know, it's, there's some adjustments there. So I look at what's my vision? My vision is to still work and do, keep my business going. And at the same time, add in likely, somewhere around 6 hours a week of spending time with grandkids that I didn't spend in the winter. So, there's an opportunity to be, the supportive grandma, with an obstacle of where do I adjust my time. So there's the obstacles and opportunities.
Yeah, I was glad
And
you brought that up because even though the grandkids or seeing them could be obstacles, it's not a bad obstacle. It's still something that you're aware of to adjust the business.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's a change to how I operate my daily life.
yeah,
Like
for
that's
that time period.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for that time period. So, and knowing, and I make that commitment to myself
Mm-hmm.
because I know it's only 2 months or 2.5 months out of the year that all comes together. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
asking myself to do that every other month.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's important to me. Like it's important to me.
Very cool.
So, it's and did I have clarity at the beginning? Not really. A lot of I knew where I would have to adjust, but it took a while to figure out what to let go of in the rest of my life. Like what else. I can't, take the full 6 hours away from work. So what else am I going to do? Like where am I okay with doing working in an evening, or working on a Saturday? Like where am I in that? Um, Now my uniques in that. Well, I'm a pretty
Well,
fabulous grandma,
I'll
if I
give you
say
another
myself.
example just so to help everybody listening. So like to bring this to like it's not that what you just said is not practical applications, but to bring it to like a real world example of another perspective of this because so now like I'm doing my taxes, right? So I'm a little bit behind in the taxes, no big deal, but there's a lot to do because I have a lot of moving components. 30 business bank accounts, like literally 30 bank accounts that I have to deal with. Real estate, business, like all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of things. And I am not a fan of doing any kind of bookkeeping or anything like that. So I applied the focus framework. What's the forecast? Well, the forecast is I'm going to get this year, that back year tax done. Okay, that's the forecast. All right, then what are the obstacles and what are the opportunities? Well, the obstacles is me because I just hate doing it. So
Yeah.
I need to do something about that. What are the opportunities? Well, wait a minute. The opportunities is I have this new thing called Notion that I'm really, really excited about, and I've learned how to do. You know, okay, so that's the opportunities. Like, how can I use this new thing to help me organize to get the thing done? Here's the clarity part and the unique part. So the clarity part is I need to reestablish or readjust how I approach or how I think the on ramp, right, to doing the work. Change the on ramp because we've talked about that before. Like, don't do the same thing again that will get you back into that mood of like, I hate this and I want to kill myself. So then the uniqueness is how do I work? What makes me tick? And you know me, I like to break things down. Like I'm a big picture dude, but then it's like, okay, that's great, but what's the one thing that we can do right now? So what did I do? I took all the big thing of like get all your taxes done to little chunks of little projects. Just do this little thing here, and that's a project. And so that gives me like so that's how I used my uniques is like this is what makes me tick. And then speed, which is like go do that right now. Go set up those little projects in Notion, which now if you looked at it, you'd see, I don't know, there's like 10 sub projects that are easy for me to look at and going, I could do that. That's no problem at all.
Yeah.
Right. So everything's changed because I looked at the focus framework and said, what are the things that I need to implement in order to get this done? So that's a real world example that kind of just happened this week.
Well, that's cool. I have to tell you, I was really surprised to find out that I'm actually not behind on my GST. I thought, oh yeah, right. I think I still need to do that for first quarter, and then yeah, no, I actually had it done. That was really kind
That's
of
cool.
weird, but
That's
anyway,
cool. Yeah.
just a little aside. Yeah,
But you see how all
some
those
people,
things fit into all of that
yeah.
framework? Yeah.
Well, and it takes. the as you've been talking, I in other capacities, what's always come up is the SWOT analysis,
Mm-hmm.
like your strengths, weaknesses, obstacles, and what's the T? I don't know,
SWAT? What is the SWAT? I haven't. Dang. Now I don't know. Uh,
but
anyway.
it like it's almost a mechanical thing to me. Maybe because it's always been presented as like as leadership, at a likely nonprofit or some kind of training for being on a board of directors. Um, so it's but this brings in the other pieces to it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it going, you know, this is a because I hadn't I you 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 go through this framework with us from time to time in academy, um, and it's an excellent framework for when we do the 12 weeks, the
Mm-hmm.
12-week year,
Yep.
to be looking at it in that realm. Um, but as I'm kind of like did the okay, that mini course is out, now what? Like it gives me the chance to start looking and going, okay, my next step is to start building my tribe.
Yeah,
um
it's kind of
so
like taking like it's like if again it's meta because you could look at it. You could say to me, "Okay, Joe, I got the course out. What do I do next?" Okay, focus on getting leads. Like that's the thing, right? But the word focus is always there in my vocabulary, right? All the time. Focus on that.
yeah,
Well, then what do I do? And that's where the framework comes into play. Because if you're because that's really what we've really begun is that's the forecast. Get the lead generation. And then you can break it down yourself. Well,
yeah,
then just use focus on what you're focusing on, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, what are the obstacles, what are the opportunities, where can I apply my uniqueness, or what uniquely thing I'm looking for, like those type of things. So I love that you can just apply it to, I know I need to focus on this, but what
never.
do I do?
Well, and it can be broken down, so it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
here's, I'm building my tribe, I'm doing some lead generation. That's going to be that's ongoing, really.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe want a bigger push in the beginning, but I can still take that and break it down and use focus for what am I going to do this week, so that I,
Exactly.
like it's when you chunk it down, you can chunk it down as two
Excuse me.
activities, but
That's
each of
right.
those activities goes back. You take the framework back to each of those activities, so that like, and again, it's like obstacles and opportunities sometimes are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that discernment, which I believe I'm better at, but I know that that's a like it's so common, especially in the online marketing world I've been in, where the opportunities are obstacles, but we don't see them
Most,
that way.
yeah, most of the time,
Like,
and that's what I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes it's not just the, it could be you have to stretch your mind or like where is my focus right now outside of what I'm talking about. So if you're focused on whatever getting something done and your mind wanders and you're like, oh yeah, but there's this other thing that I'm really interested in, like that's the opportunity for you to write that down as I like to call it a parking lot, and that's an obstacle.
yeah,
So oh, there's this licensing deal that I should be looking at. Well, that's kind of an obstacle right now. So just write that down. Thinking about licensing, like, and that gives you another
yeah,
opportunity to write that stuff down to get it out of your brain. Like even though like I'm just starting. This is I guess maybe it's related because I'm starting to learn how to meditate better, right? And today I did a meditation, and I've never heard this before. You probably know because I know you do a lot of meditation, called the home. Is it the home? The
oh, I
home
don't know.
place or whatever. Anyway, it's like you pick this noise or this something that is your home base. Home base. I think it's called home base. Okay. And so when your mind wanders, because I've always had that problem, like I don't understand, like what do you mean focus and empty your mind and all this kind of stuff. And today the dude was like, just have a home base, and so pick something that's going on, whether it's your breath or some noise or the birds chirping, whatever it is, like that's your home base. So every time your mind wanders, you go back to the home base. I'm like, this is brilliant, right? So where's it going with this? So I think it was because of
Well,
because
you had some kind of epiphany during the meditation because of the.
well, no, because I had an epiphany now because it was more about the brain wandering, like during your
Mhm.
focus. So when you're doing something, you're like, oh yeah, but I got this other thing. Well, that's like come back to home base, which is this focus right now. And all those other
Yeah.
things are write them down, get them out of your head, put them down, so whatever. But they're not part of this focus time period, however long that period is. It's the same as the 12-week year that we do. You know, we remember that whole exercise. The part of it is write down everything you could be doing between now
Yeah.
and right. You're writing all these things down, and then you circle. Okay, which one of those out of all those have everything to do with this, and everything else forget about it right now. It's kind of the same thing, but we're condensing it down to like a really small time period within the focus framework. If that makes
So
sense.
it makes total sense to me. Um, and trying to bring this down. I mean, this is about our business, and
Yeah.
but our life gets in there as well. So,
Yeah.
when I'm thinking, to be gentle with ourselves when we look at obstacles, it's not necessarily that obstacles are evil.
No.
Like sometimes they're just they are what all an obstacle is. And I mean, I'm not quoting from any dictionary. This is my point of view. When it comes to the business, an obstacle is something that gets in the way of you accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And that can shift, like it's mobile and can be transient. It can be, so not to get hung up on something that's bad or evil. So, where I'm going with this is that in the coming week, my it's my daughter's birthday, and I go back to my personal life because I don't know, maybe I'm still rebounding from COVID when people weren't around. But my family is really important to me, and spending time with them is really important to me. So my daughter's birthday is next week, and usually there's something to do with, like, there's a family, like we just have a family birthday when we have birthdays, like that's part of the thing. And my sister, who I usually only see once a year, is also in town next week. So when I'm looking at what do I want to accomplish in my business, those two particular things are obstacles because they're going to get in the way of me working,
Right.
possibly. I don't know that for sure. But when I'm planning my week,
Yep.
um, and
Forecasting,
and
by the way.
I forecasting my week, and I did it this week. What I did this week, I'm now going to move in, look at doing for next week. So you jump in and tell me where this fits or what I could do different. I ended up, I had two calls booked with people that like networking. I don't like the word networking really, but they're, from the
Connection.
Titans group, that connecting, and the one call today, it's like, yeah, geez, I know somebody who has this group and this offer, and this is something that she's missing. Like, so you don't know where those calls are going to go. So it's building my own, community and capacity. So those calls are important to me. And there's another one that likely wanted to schedule one this week. And it's like, I've got two, and that, like, right now, that's enough. Like, I don't want to plan anymore. So I block out my schedule so
Yep.
that if there's something, if I have somebody who wants to talk to me about my services, or there's other things that I want to make sure that I've got space for. Um, so like that was idea, because I would spend, like, these people are wonderful. Like, you're wonderful. I'd spend all day talking to people, and still get opportunities out of them. I'd find the shine, the silver cloud in them, and it would likely, I can get drained by it. We can get into conversations that are really interesting and intriguing, and I love to have, but do they move me forward in my business? No. So it's balancing some of those pieces and thinking about next week. Likely neither my daughter or my sister is going to impact my work week. It really likely isn't. But my two grandsons have award ceremonies next week, so that are during the day. So it's looking at what is important to me, and for me, my family is important. Is it going to take me away from all of my work? No. Am I going to say no to something in an evening because I might have to put some work in an evening because I'm going to be at a school from 9 to 10 in the morning? I might. Like, I'm not going to commit to doing something with somebody else that week. Or so it's really setting, the it's setting those, like looking at those pieces and whether they're opportunities. And and then if somebody else in my family may want to go do something weird that I could do any day that week, and I would say no because my family time's booked. Right. So and I'm kind of focusing on family because I think that's going back to what you talked about, the overwhelm, is that sometimes the overwhelm comes in because of the demands that aren't business related demands, but they come in to play.
Yeah,
And when my
definitely.
shower,
There's
I had a 2 week shower saga trying to get something working in my bathroom. So, had a plumber here every now and then. Like, there's things that come up in our lives, and sometimes that's what tips us into overwhelm.
yeah,
So
100%.
recognizing it and adjusting along the lines, which is the simplify. That's part of the simplify. Just like, then it just means we got to just change it up a bit.
Where did you need you asked me to jump in. So where would you want me to jump
Oh,
in there?
anywhere. I just wasn't.
I
Well, it's
think
just
that
like this is what I did. How does it fit with focus?
yeah, I think that
And
what you
is there
brought
a
up
way
is
that I could have done better?
I don't think
Like,
you
is
could have
there?
done better, but what you brought up is a really cool thing that I never thought of before. But while you were talking about clarity, so you said that about a few times that your family is really important to you, which is amazing. And I think that there's this through line of the focus that goes all the time through it because it's like, what's the forecast of this week? I want to get this done in my business. Um, what do I need to get done? And you're clear on what we need to get done. But it's also about your personal life because you're going into being saying to yourself, uh, the clarity is that my family's really important to me. So there are
Mhm.
these obstacles which are really speed bumps because I wanted to address that as well.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
obstacles are not just these things that stop you all the time. They could slow you down. That's all. It's a
Mhm.
speed bump, and they slow you
Yeah.
down in that week. And the speed bump is you're gonna have the birthday party for the family this week, or whatever. So that's a speed bump, but you're adjusting for it. It's kind of like going on the road, right? I'm forecasting. I want to go from here to California. Wait a minute, I got to go over that dirt road. I need to adjust here, so I can't go as
Yeah.
fast as right. So that's what it's all about. And so I like the fact
Well,
that bringing the clarity back in about, wait, this is about me too, because I'm all about that as well, right? So when I'm
yeah.
dealing with my business and it's I want to get this done, or there's again opportunities or something that comes up, I am always looking back at what is it, what does my life look like, or what am I willing to trade my life for? The thing I always reference from John Asseroff all the time. I'm asking that question: what am I trading my life for? What is this willing? Am I willing to trade my life for this right now? So it's clarity on me. So it's interwoven all the time. I'm going in and out
Yeah.
of business and personal all the time. So I'm glad that you brought that up because that's the only thing I would add. It's like I know you're not doing anything wrong. I think you're doing absolutely everything right.
Well,
And it's
I
applying that focus framework from one week to the next, and then overarching over 3 months, and then 3 years and
well,
ten
and
years.
I it time and space has never been has never been really clear to me. Like,
What do you mean?
well, I just said I didn't get the time and space manual when they sent me to Earth. I realize now that's part of ADD. Like, that's always late, like those
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah,
things. Or if you're on time, then you're scrambling like to with something.
yeah,
Um, but I think the reason this has got to be more top of mind for me in the last few months is because in March, I tried to do too much.
yeah.
And they were, all things that I love to do. Um, and there was family. There was, I got to play for my first time ever, maybe the last time ever, I don't know, in a bell choir, for church, like things which I love music. I love, like, there were so many things. There was just lots of different things going on. And that was also the month that we went into breakthrough boot camp, which was really busy. I mean, it was awesome, but it was really focused and busy and something new for me. And I got to the point, like, towards the end of the third week of March, where I could start to feel anxiety that I haven't had in likely 12 years since my husband died.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the thought, like, the phone would ring or somebody would send me a message, and I would just go into instant anxiety of, like, oh my goodness, where do I have to go now?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because I didn't say no.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't have a vision. I didn't have a forecast. I didn't look at obstacles. Everything was an opportunity.
Yeah.
Uh, and even like the bell choir, I tried to say no 2 or 3 times, and eventually it's like, and I justified it because I went, Lorna, you love music. You love playing music. You love being involved in music. Why are you saying no to music? Like, this is a passion of yours. You love this. Why would you say no to it? Um, but there's only so many hours in a day, and it broke me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it broke me. So, um, it just it's now, I guess that's why it's so top of mind with me, of thinking about what's going on with my family, and if I'm going to do this, then where do I say no, or where do I adjust, and where do I still accomplish what I want to accomplish in my forecast, and be able to do it and feel good about it, and not go into that anxiety
Well,
mode
you know
again.
what, too? Speaking of the forecast, and to your point, is this is another thing that you helped me realize by talking us out, is that it's also a opportunity for us to reflect
Hmm.
on what we forecasted, which is brilliant, I
Yeah.
think, because it's, again, going back to weather. Like, you'd go to Disney World, you've planned on going all the rides, but guess what? Now it's pouring rain. That's Didn't anticipate that one. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got to adjust. You got to do something, and you get clarity. So that's where the clarity piece again comes into play. So if you forecasted something, and let's just use a week as an example. You do this week thing, and you're forecasting this thing, and you're doing something, but then you get clarity on that you just hate doing the dang thing. It's just not what you want to do,
Mm.
right? Or that the
Oh,
family was more important. So you're reflecting on, I forecasted this, and this is what I'm really feeling about this. And you step back and you kind of take a look at yourself, just like you kind of alluded to already. And like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And so you're getting clarity about where you are in the present moment. So I think there's a lot of moving components to this if we really look at it
yeah.
and
And it
give
doesn't,
yourself permission to do that.
yeah. And when you say that, there's a lot of moving components, and it can still be simple.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and often, like many things in life, we don't get that clarity until we go through something that didn't work out exactly how we thought it was going to work out.
Yeah. Well, let's look
you
at,
know,
even if you wanted to do something, I'll just use me as an example again of doing bookkeeping, let's say. So my
yeah,
forecast was, back in the day, which was like, oh no, every Friday is going to be my bookkeeping day. Like, that'll be the thing. Because I know I have to set myself up and do all these things, right? And I wasn't using the framework, but I'll use it in this context of like, then every week that I forecast that, okay, Friday's the thing, and I don't get to it, then it gives me the opportunity the next week to again forecast, which it doesn't happen. And 1 or 2 weeks in, the clarity should set in that I just do not want to do this, right?
yeah,
So that brings up a whole new focus framework. Okay, then what do I need to go do? The forecast is, well, I need to get this bookkeeping thing done because I don't want to be behind in my taxes anymore. So, right, and it sets up a whole new framework of clarity of like, okay, I need to get this, or I need to hire somebody who's uniquely great at doing that. And so you see how how it kind of weaves in and out of like,
yeah,
and I want everybody listening to be okay with the fact that it breaks. Like, you do the thing and then it doesn't work out. But if you go
Yeah.
back to the things and you say, well, what happened there? What did I miss? Was I missing an obstacle? Why did I not see that obstacle? Was I unclear about something? Like all these things. And it just takes
Well,
a little effort to step out of yourself and look at it.
yeah. I mean, a couple of things came to mind. One is, um, I had to laugh because I've written this. I don't know where if I got. I think I put it on a card, but it's likely somewhere in a pile now, here, or a sticky note. I certainly wrote it in my journal in big, big letters, um, after my Canva slash PowerPoint adventure was think, then do. Um, so I think, you're talking about something that, uh, I know that I don't, or have up till now, haven't done as much as I want, and I'm doing more in the last likely 8 months to a year than I did, I think, beforehand, and that is think. And it's since this self-diagnosis thing that, like, I'm still coming to realize that I likely do have ADD. Like, that's pretty much 101% positive. um, but seeing, that how often I would jump in to do. So I mean, this isn't speed of implementation. I mean, sometimes it is, but there's moments where pulling back and thinking it through first, even for 5 seconds
Oh
or a
yeah.
minute. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have not had to sit and think for 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly taking that step back and not just doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's that part of reflection is so important, to step back
Yep.
and look at it from like a, I don't know, like a 5,000 foot view, like, almost, if you can imagine that you're stepping out of yourself, like you're an observer.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
just the observer. There's no emotion, there's no judgment. And sometimes the answer is, you know what? The reason this didn't work out is because I decided to go to Swirls for ice cream and have a nice visit. And sometimes it's, my mom was just rushed to hospital, and that's where we're going, and so things didn't get done because that happened. And there doesn't have to be a judgment, there just has to be acceptance that that's what's happened. And one
Mm-hmm.
thing, some things you can do something about, and other things you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So you adjust. It's just another chance to go back in through that framework and go, okay, I I could have that forecast and look more at my opportunities and obstacles, because maybe I should have seen this one coming. And you can go, I couldn't have planned for that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's, even if you think you can plan. I mean, my stepdad turns 94 today. My
Wow.
mom turns
Happy
90.
birthday, stepdad.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mom my mom turns 94 in September. So, like, one should think that there should be some planning in the back of my head that at some point, you know, life's going to interrupt me in a way I don't want it to be interrupted, which
Mm-hmm.
happened last fall when my
Mm-hmm.
mother-in-law and father-in-law passed away 11 days apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, that was a time where that forecast went from one direction to another. Like, it, and adjusted it, and to just be where I felt like I needed to be, and to do what I needed to do. Um, and that, so it happens, but it's still, the framework still works. It's like, okay, this
What
has
it'll
happened.
help you do in that capacity, like if we look at the personal life and life, coming at us and things are unpredictable, then hopefully I say this is as delicate as possible and politically correct, but whatever. It's like it still allows you to adjust and adapt. Like let's say that you have a
Yeah,
forecast of whatever, and then something happens and you have to help your mom because she went to the hospital or whatever, right? And let's say that
yeah,
becomes a pattern. Let's say it becomes a pattern of every week. It's an obstacle that pops up that you never anticipated. Well, then that's an opportunity for you. Again, I don't know how I'm
Yeah.
delicately saying this, but it's like, to look at it and be clear on, wait a minute, this, I need to do something about this. Maybe I need to set up home care. Maybe I need to take a month off. Maybe like it, you know what I mean? So it's not an opportunity for us to say, well, that didn't work because that thing got in the way. It's more of a way for us to identify that, wait a minute, this is a not this is no longer an anomaly. This is actually starting to happen as a pattern, and I need to
Yeah.
identify that in order to forecast, in order to deal with it. Does that make sense? Hopefully I said that in the
Yeah.
most delicate way, but
No,
yeah.
I think you no, I loved how you said it. I think that's exactly that's exactly emerging some of those things that happen.
Yeah.
That's that it happens all the yeah. Being aware of when it just made me think of one of the guy leaders in our church that talked about like if you're late for church, like you're late for church, things happen. But if you're late for church every day, then your ox is in the mire, and it's time for you to get the ox out of the mire.
Right. Right.
You know, if you're late like 52 Sundays a year,
Yeah.
this isn't something that just happened to come up.
Exactly.
But bringing it a little bit back to the business piece of it, because you made me think of something. And it has been, I think I mentioned this on an academy call, like, I don't know, last week or the week before, is, some of the scrolling that I've got into that I had not been into, my Facebook screen time on my phone was down a lot last week when I was working on that mini course, when I was focused. So it changed. But this week, I've had, this is a second day and 2 mornings in a row. It's not like I've spent hours on my phone, but I'm likely starting work anywhere from half an hour to an hour later than what I planned to and what I could have if I'd have stayed on track. So like my ox is in the mire with that, because this isn't just this week that it happened.
Right. Right.
Um, and for me to go through, um, the clarity for me on that would be spending that bit of thinking time about, what is this? Is this because I work till like 10:30 Friday night and Saturday night, and have I not had enough downtime that I'm not refresh like that? I want to escape in some ways. Like I don't feel like it's an escape, but is there, what is stopping me from just getting into doing what I need to do, and how can I change that? Um, so
Well,
it
what changed? Like, so when you look at the clarity of last week or doing that, then the question is, what what was the circumstances, or what changed for me to be so focused, and what was that? What made my screen time go down? We know what it was, that the PowerPoint and all
yeah.
that stuff, but why? Right?
Why?
And look into
I had
that.
because I had a firm deadline. It mattered.
Exactly. Exactly. So you and I are both the same, which we don't put deadlines on a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
whatever. And you know me in the academy, I'm always pushing for, what does this mean? What's the number? What's the date?
Yeah.
Right. And, I'm still like Eben Pagan. We're like, I'll just put the idea out there and I'll put a date on it, but and I'll wait until the 5 minutes before the date, and that's when I'll start working on it. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that, because I don't like the pressure, even though I'm good under pressure. So those are the things that we become clear about. So that's what I would do if I were you, is
Yeah.
look back at, okay, well, the one thing that made me get off
Yeah.
my ass and not on my phone was that I had a deadline, and it meant something to me, because you can't really
Yeah.
put that in play and say, well, Lorna, just make a deadline every single week. Well, there's no fire under your butt. That doesn't mean anything, because you're just making up a date, right? So that's
Yeah.
clarity. Okay,
Yeah.
how do I get that every single week or every month? Anyway,
Well,
just something to think
yeah,
about.
and it's how to create. It's how it's creating my creating the deadlines. Like even if they're like not necessarily moving it out far enough. But even if it's a deadline for a focus session, like that's a deadline thing. For 50 minutes, I'm going to work on this. So it's bringing in
Well, in
it's a
that
different kind of
that's
deadline.
it is. One of the things though, Lorna, is that, if you missed that deadline, you're missing an opportunity.
Yeah,
There's a completely different thing. So,
yeah,
and so, you could play on a lot of those psychological triggers. And it could very well mean that, if I don't get this done, I'm going to have to pay $50 to the political party that I completely hate.
eight.
Like
Yeah,
whatever it is. And like, and go through with it. Go through with it and do it. And like that's painful. I don't want to have to do that. The only person who's going to be able to discipline yourself is yourself, right?
yeah, yeah. We
So,
do one of the laser coaching models that I've used. Not as much as well. I've used it with marketing clients, um, but it comes from the Canfield methodology. It is bringing in that piece, and it like generally the laser coaching ends up with so what are you going to do within the next 24 hours,
mm-hmm,
and if it's not done, what's the consequence?
mm-hmm,
And I remember one of the other trainers, her consequence always was, I will give, whatever it was, $100, $500. I can't remember the amount, but it was like to the Ku Klux Klan.
mm-hmm,
That because that would be one of the things that would most motivate her
mm-hmm.
to get done what she committed to doing. Um, and I've not ever been in a small group accountability groups, masterminds that have done that, but I have heard that some
I was in
do
one.
that
Yeah.
on their weekly ones, that the
Mm-hmm.
consequence the consequence was brought in.
Yep.
Um, that's a tough one. Like it's
It's tough only
because you can
because like you build a habit very quickly. I'll tell you that much. And it doesn't have to be that. It could very well be that you shut your phone off. I don't know. Like my phone's not never in my room. Like I'm not one of those people. So I'm okay with my phone not like I don't wake up and the first thing is my phone. Like that's not who I am. Uh, so I don't have a problem with that. But if I was, it would, and my phone was on, that would be the first thing. Then I would be like, okay, I'm shutting off my phone, and I can't turn my phone on until this thing happens or whatever. So,
yeah,
but it would be myself that has the discipline because you're the only person who knows you're going to break the rule. And if you break the
yeah,
rule with
that's
yourself,
true.
that's hard to live with every single day. Like you're going to sleep and you're lying to yourself and everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't lie to yourself, you know.
Well, you can you can try, but it doesn't work very
Yeah, it
well.
doesn't work. Like your
It
subconscious will know,
doesn't
and it's
doesn't
like,
move you forward. It
so those
doesn't
are the
move you
things.
forward.
Like that's why it was important to you because there was this deadline that meant something to you, which was an opportunity. Whether the opportunity pans out or not, you still had. I'm going to go do this, and then you look back and now you have an asset regardless of what happens. All of these things. So,
Yeah,
and I'm not a saint at this either because I try the same things. Like, what's the consequence of this? What am I not getting? If I don't do this, what's going to happen? So yeah, put in the framework first and then get the clarity because again that middle piece of clarity has to do with everything.
yeah.
Clarity about the forecast, clarity about we're going to
So
say
I have a question for you that's totally related
cool.
and brings in something different because I'm just curious whether you've done this. So I'm given that I'm actually starting to believe that ADD is a thing. Um,
Yes, it is.
you have no idea how humbling that is for me because I have been so anti-diagnosis, so over-diagnosis judgmental, not of people but of the system that, especially for kids, because I just had different thoughts and I'm now seeing them different. So it's very humbling for me. It really is.
I know what it feels like. Trust me.
And given that two of my grandsons have been diagnosed with ADD in the last 6 months, um, as well. So anyway, but one of the kind of, I don't know if it's a trick or I guess maybe a strategy, not necessarily. I don't know if it would fit under the strategy and focus, but you talked about chunking things down, like taking
Yeah.
that forecast and then chunking them into smaller bits. So for, and I say this because I think, most of, I think many anyway, maybe not most, but many entrepreneurs have ADD.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why we end up here. Um, so it is having those smaller pieces that are there and planned out, because sometimes we want to jump from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And instead of, so maybe for example the phone, right? Like if I'm bored with this, or it's not keeping my attention, so I grab my phone and I scroll, say that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing. But if I had this other chunk that was planned, that maybe I did like to do even for a little bit, that I could bounce from chunk to chunk,
Yeah.
because I'm still focused on the forecast, even
Yeah.
though I might not be totally focused on just one thing that has to get done right now.
Right.
The bouncing, setting ourselves up to be able to do that will move us forward, as opposed to getting trapped. What I feel is trapped. I'm not going to say for anybody else, but some days it feels like I'm trapped into this, um, which I know that's totally victim language, but it does kind of feel like this. Okay, I'm distracted now. I want to go do something different. I want to go make tea. I want to go do whatever. When really I don't need to do any of those things. I just need to do something different. So having that forecast and having it planned down into chunks also helps us to get the chunks done, even if we don't do it in a linear way.
Yeah. That's a big thing because again, everybody's going to work differently, but I find that for me, that's what it comes down to is, uh, I, I think that for a lot of people, almost everybody, when you look at a project, let's look at whatever you're going to do, it's always overwhelming because there's a lot of things to do. And
Yeah.
so what we look at is, when am I going to have the time to do this? I need to carve out the time, right? So right now I don't have the time, so I'm just going to not do that right now, and I'm going to go do these other things, right? So that's
Yeah.
basically the concept of overwhelm. There's just way too many things to do, and that's why when you chunk it all down, is like, okay, I'm just going to do this one thing. But I also learned from Matt Dix, uh, "Someday is today" or something like that. In his book, which is a brilliant book, by the way, that every moment is a moment not to waste for the most menial thing, right? I'm like, okay, and so I started living that way, and I've always been like that. Like I don't want to waste any time here, like, you know, uh, and so but now I'm even more aware of it. So for example, yeah, so when I started, I'll go back to the example of the Notion thingy and putting it all in there and whatever. So it was like, okay, I got to chunk all this down. I got to make these projects and all that stuff. And what are the things that I need to reconcile? What are the accounts? I don't know what those accounts. So instead of me trying to figure it out and getting obsessed over it and anxiety over it, I just started because it was like, well, you know
Mm.
what? If I just do this now and I get fed up in a minute, then at least I got a minute done, right? It's going back to that every
Yeah.
minute counts. So, but that didn't happen. It led to clarity because I'm like, okay, well, that's the account I know. Oh, wait a minute, there's that other account. Oh, that's the other account. So then instead of me trying to step back and say, what are all the accounts I need to reconcile and frustrate me because I didn't know, it allowed me to start the project or start listing them, which led me to the next one, which led me to the next one. Like, oh, okay. And now I've got this one little checklist. Like, oh, that's cool. That's a checklist. Oh, wait a minute. There's this other thing that I got to do too. Let me build that checklist, right? So it was starting with the 1 minute. What can I get done in this 1 minute that I'm not wasting? And so
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps, but you're right. Like I when so now when I approach it, like now I'm actually doing the thing. So I don't look at it and say I have to reconcile all those all those accounts, right? So it's like, well, I'm only going to have to reconcile that account that month. That's it. And I'll be happy. But that never happens, right? Because it's like, wow, that wasn't too bad. I'm going to do the next month. I'm going to do the next month because I'm
Yeah.
like that. And so, but here's where this comes into play with what you just said, because I am ADD and I get all that. And I'm like, so if I only set the forecast of just get this 1 month done, Joey, I'm good. Because if I do jump to watch cat videos, I'm like, I did exactly what I forecasted. I'm good.
And that's it.
Now,
Yeah.
mind you, when I say that, and I know nobody listening, but maybe the person beside you is this is them, might don't use that as an excuse, right? You're like, well, I'm just going to do this one little thing, and I've worked the forecast and the framework. That's not what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
it
You
allows you
can't
that.
you can't just take one leg of
Yeah,
the ox out of the mire.
yeah, yeah. But that's how I
That's
use
not
it.
going to. Yeah. So then I'm thinking, um, we talked about all the things that, well, or at least a lot of things that we can do and what the forecast is, what it's like and how it can show up week to week. And um, I, thinking about what I think might be behind some of my scrolling time, which may or may not be true, but and just thinking about the one, do something for just 1 minute, which, I don't know. I'm sure there's some theories about habits about the 1 minute, because usually within 1 minute, like once you start, you'll keep going. So there's
Hmm.
that piece. That's not what I was going to get at. Where do you forecast your rest and your downtime?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
where
still
does that
part of
fit
it.
in the focus? Because we've talked about the doing stuff, and yet the rest and the downtime is, I think, is key
Yeah, yeah.
as well.
As you know, like I'm trying to get into resetting my body clock, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. Or today was a good example because I didn't get like restful sleep last night, so I was a little bit tired around 1 o'clock or something, which doesn't really happen to me a lot anymore. Like every day, I used to have a nap, right, to recharge and stuff. But I needed a
Yeah.
recharge, and that was a speed bump that was not planned, but
Okay.
I leave room for those things. So my forecast in the week or the day already is allowing buffer zones for things to flow in. So today I had a meditation for 10 minutes and I had a nap for 40 minutes.
Cool.
Right? To just that's what I needed. And then that was right before
Yeah.
academy. So like literally 20 minutes before academy, I woke up. I'm like, cool, I'm refreshed now. I'm ready to go in here. And it's
Ready to
been
go.
right.
Yeah, I just thought I wanted to bring that in because it's, I mean, for me as well, because I don't plan often enough buffer time. Like I plan getting things done, like hour by hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and getting better at least planning more time than I think I need.
Yeah, for sure. That's a
Not
big one.
not all the time, um, but having that awareness of doing that. But I have to say, it, it's not natural for me to plan in buffer time, um, and
Yeah,
I
like
just can't
I
think.
built that in
I'm not
now.
so, I'm just not so special. That I think I'd be alone in
But that's
in
part of the whole
that.
idea, though,
Um,
Lorna, is like setting up
yeah,
your life. And that's a whole other discussion. Like, what does your lifestyle look like
yeah,
so that you can then
yeah.
forecast? Because you already know, like, you already know how mine is. I broadcast to the world. Everybody knows no mornings. Wednesdays are off. Fridays are off. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm not doing any work and nothing like that, but they are buffer days, right?
Times,
So
yeah,
if nothing happens in those days, I don't really care. I'm totally cool with it. And I know, and my brain even knows that now. I know that like Tuesdays, this is the busiest day, if you want to really call it busy, of my entire week. Like this is the when I
yeah.
do the most stuff. And but my brain knows, like when I wake up tomorrow, it'll feel like Saturday to me. Literally, I'll wake up and go, ah, I don't have anything to do.
Saturday.
This is so amazing. And I could choose to do whatever I want. And that is, I can't begin to tell you how powerful that is. And then the same thing happens to me on Thursdays. After academy, a long week of coaching and brain power, my brain just knows that dude, you got 3 days to just chill if you want to. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about anything. Don't do anything. And so I've that's a habit that I've built in forecast. Now sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes like I got to work on Friday or Saturday or do some stuff, right? But
Yeah,
it's
but
part of building your lifestyle first so that you can forecast
yeah.
around that.
What one thing I did start, I'm going to say, oh gosh, maybe even 2 years ago. I'm going to I'm going to say it's about that time. I don't know. It might be a little longer, maybe a little shorter, not much shorter. Um, was when I decided that I wanted to have like the shorter work week.
Yep.
And so I was going to take, I think Friday mornings was going to be basically a non work time. And so that I could work into Fridays, which I've not done. What ended up happening, which is okay with me, because it generally works, is that Fridays have become like that's if I have a haircut, I book it on a Friday. If going to the chiropractor, I book it on a Friday. The only one is my doctor. Sometimes, like if I have a doctor's appointment, sometimes I don't get a Friday. But like I've kind of kept that for personal. Like that's kind of if I'm going to do anything that's personal appointment time, that's the day because I'm not going to be with clients. I'm not going to be teaching. I'm not going to be
Right.
doing any of those other things. Um, so that little switch just in itself of
It's
having
huge.
that, it is big because if I didn't think about, Friday's my day to do that, then I would book, I could easily not every week, but likely once every 3 months or so, would end up booking something on a Tuesday and on a Friday. And I've even started adding my, my, yeah, this is like, I don't know why I'm focused on the personal stuff. I think because like I live by myself, so I got to feel like I do it all, and fit it all in. But, now I'll go to the chiropractor and I'll go to Costco on my way home so that I usually do that trip on a Friday evening. But I'm out Friday already. So I just add that. I'm out anyway. I'm going to do that. And so then when I
Exactly.
come home, I'm home. I'm not going out twice that day. And, it's a later start on my Fridays. So sometimes goes into the evening, but
Mm-hmm.
it's far better for my mind,
Exactly.
and my concentration doing it that way. So, I mean, that's part of I guess if I'm looking at forecasting my week, it's like, is this a Costco week? That goes into the,
Yes.
the business part of it. It's not like I'm trying to figure out how to do the mini course or what am I doing for lead gen. Like it's not those kinds of thoughts,
Yes.
but it still fits into my day. So um, I think I do more of that kind of thinking than I give myself credit for, maybe in
Yeah.
looking at my week. Um, and certainly know there's also room for improvement on that. We didn't talk a lot about uniques.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about uniques before we go.
Yeah.
The uniques is like this tricky area because it's about like um as it relates to the focus, whatever it is. Like we'll just keep using a week as an example, or maybe just the project because um what it has everything to do with your unique superpower. Is your unique superpower related to what you need to go do? Yes or no? Or is it about the business? Let's say it's a marketing campaign you're doing. Then what are the unique areas that we're focused on here to help us market better, like that kind of thing? Like
Hmm.
it's all related to what it is that the focus is about. The example I gave you already, which is, you know, what is unique, what uniquely makes me tick when it comes to getting projects done was the fact that I like chunking things down, right? So that was a uniqueness to me. So then how can I make this work at using unique piece of me, or is it a uniqueness of maybe I had a bookkeeper at that point? It's like, okay, well, no, my bookkeeper's really good at this. So I'm going to hand this piece off, which is part of the clarity, which is part of the obstacle, which is, right? All of that. So I think unique has everything to do with who and what. is the unique piece that I could employ within this time frame of this framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah, it
unique
does.
piece that I could utilize? That's probably a better way to
So
put
you,
it.
when you first started talking about uniques, I think you said something that made me think about um, what needs to be done, and is this a like, do I have this unique superpower or not?
Yeah, is this a
So,
unique ability? Is it a unique opportunity?
so if it's something that isn't, would you kind of go cycle back into, well, it isn't, but is this an obstacle or opportunity, so that you can get clarity on what you're going to take in that step?
Um, I'm kind of the more I talk about it, it is I'm leaning towards again. I'm still fleshing this out, but the unique part of it is if you step back and say, where is the unique? Where is the unique thing that I could see in this context? Like what is unique about this, or where do I need to apply something unique about this? Does that make sense? It could be a person,
Yeah.
it could be a thing, it could be the framework, it could be the marketing language. Like what is unique about this entire thing? And again, back to the example is the unique piece about making this happen is that I need to chunk this down. That's how I uniquely work. So that was the
Okay.
unique about it. On another thing, it might be completely different. So it would be like, I don't know, am I the right person to go do this? Because this doesn't fit within my superpowers. So who
Yeah.
else can I get to do this piece of it to move this forward? Even though I'm clear on what has to happen, who do I need to bring in that's uniquely gifted at the thing that I need to get done? That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just looking at what is the unique about this. That's it. Like I would start there. What is the unique about this? What's a unique that I could bring into it? And there
Okay.
may not be a unique, but there probably is if you really step back.
Yeah. And then if it's not a unique, then it's like, what do I do to get it done anyway? Or who can help me get it done?
Yeah, but then I would
That's
argue,
their unique.
right? Then I would argue because then you would say, well, there is no unique about this because I just need to get this done. Well, no.
Mhm.
Realistically, you could look for someone else who's unique in doing the thing that you want to do, right? It's not that you're
Yeah.
going to do that, but maybe in the future, if it's something that's gone going, you're like again,
Yeah.
bookkeeping. Okay, I need to get a bookkeeper. Like I need to get someone who just loves it because they're uniquely gifted in math, and so that's what I need.
Yeah.
And that's a unique I need to bring into that situation. So I would argue that you could probably find a unique everywhere.
Yeah.
Even if at that point you have to do it, you're like, oh, I got to do this because I got nothing else here, so I got to go do this. Well, that's an obstacle that shows you that you need someone unique or something unique to take care of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you feel that?
I think I think so. I think so.
Where's the
I think
snag?
that
And look at it from this point of view. Using your example of last week, the uniqueness is like, what was unique about that?
okay.
Why did I get so much stuff done? What was unique about that? Unique was
Yeah.
I had a fire under my ass and it
Mhm.
meant a lot to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you could also argue, well, that's also clarity, Joey. Yes, but it was you got clear on why it was so unique that it's not like a not a normal situation for you.
Well, and I mean that situation was interesting to me because, in the past, I've lived for years with hyper focus sessions.
Hmm.
That's how I got a lot of things done. Um, but I haven't. I mean, I think not everyone that's watching maybe knows, but I think a lot of people know, and the last couple of years have been like a lot of like trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I grow up. So I didn't have that like the passion and interest for something I hadn't felt for a long time.
No clarity.
So I, no clear. Yeah, I mean, it's and there. I don't know if there was any way to force clarity any faster than it came for me. Like it wasn't for
No.
lack of trying. It just was just that's just what it was for me for whatever reasons. There's
But
lots of
imagine if
reasons.
you applied the focus framework all the way through the last 3 years of your life. Like every day you challenged it. Where am I going? What are the obstacles? What are the opportunities? And why the hell am I not clear? What am I not clear about? Why is this such a problem for me? Like imagine if you challenge it every day. Clarity might
And
come quicker.
maybe I wouldn't have used the actual framework, but there certainly were days where it was just like, couldn't tell you, got
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Do I know why
Right.
I got nothing? I can maybe come up with reasons. I mean, I likely didn't go deep enough sometimes, but sometimes I did, but it would just come to a halt. Like,
Yeah. I
I
get
got
it.
no feeling. I'm dead. Got no passion. Don't really care. It was I'm sure there was some kind of diagnosis that I should have had, but
I think we all
I,
needed to be diagnosed sometime. Yeah.
but I think a lot of not maybe not all of it, but I think a lot of it was post COVID.
Yeah.
More, I don't want to use that as a crutch.
Yeah.
That is more of a reflection
Yeah.
and more of a going back and thinking like what was different, why, like what happened here, and but I'm thinking, where was I going before that? Lost the thought.
I'll come
We were
back.
talking about unique. Oh, just with the hyper focus sessions, is that I did go back and think, like, how did I do that? Because the one day, I mean, it was a Friday, so I'd been out doing, like, in the morning, I did some of my Friday things and started a little bit late and, got a little distracted somewhere. Maybe I don't know if I had no, I was supposed to have a call and didn't have a call. So then I had that little adjustment to do. Um, and then I got into the zone like about 5:30, and it was like I worked till 4:30 in the morning. Like I don't ever remember when I've been up that late for many years. But it's like, why did that happen? Like like I was interested, I was passionate, there was a deadline, it mattered to me. Um, it brought back some memories and feelings of when I was in doing that before, when I really enjoyed not staying up till 4:30 in the morning, but doing the recording and having a training and like just knowing that that's going out to people and being scared about that at the same time
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
as well. Um, but just looking back at where I guess that was not just this last Friday, that was a Friday before, because this Friday was a different. I think I only went to 10:30, but it was a Friday, Saturday. I don't know, one of those days. It was about an 8-hour focus session, like totally hyper focus. Which there was no phone. That's like the phone was wherever it was. I don't know, but I didn't have that scrolling problem
Yeah, that's cool.
during those times. So it's or if it was really, I caught it. Um, although I do anyway. That's kind of, if I can leave on just in a funny joke about that and the phone. Um, Gabe Arnold had posted. Oh, it was something about staying on focus, like staying on track and staying, on doing whatever you're doing. So of course I read this post as I'm scrolling my phone, right? And I mean, he has such a good way of putting things. But literally, like I read that and I closed Facebook down. I put my phone away. Like I couldn't even respond to him because I really felt like he was in my room, in my office, going, "You're looking at your phone." Like, it was
Yeah.
just such a weird. It was like, I'm reading the book that I'm not supposed to read, and my mom just walked into the room, and I'm trying to hide it under the covers before she sees it.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a weird experience to feel like I was totally called out on Facebook that he can't see or even nobody knows.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
but it sure was like I just need to actually screenshot that and have it in a reminder that pops up about 4 times a day on my phone. But
100%. That's another great hack. Another great hack.
it's
Yeah.
it was just such a funny. funny thing about the focus and staying on track. And I can't remember what he said in the post, but it was just such a funny reaction that I had because I knew I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, anyway, we get
that's
it. That's
amazing. Thank you, Lorna.
going back in focus.
Thank you. This has been an
You're
amazing
welcome.
conversation as always. Thank you. Hopefully
It's been great.
we added some value here. I don't know. I apologize if you're in the Facebook group and asking questions there. I'll go back later and answer and see if we can get to them. 'Cause I just don't see them live anymore here.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here. We'll talk
you're
more
welcome.
about the focus framework, I guess, maybe in the future. And thank you for allowing me to flush it out a little bit more because I really did get more clarity on it today. And I
Oh, that's
can't wait to
good.
share it with more people to help them use it as well. So thank you, Lorna. We'll see you
You're
soon.
very welcome. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next
Bye.
Tuesday for another Heart Centered Marketing Show. Take care.